Hello and welcome to Shop Talk with Dan the Man. In today's video we're going to go over this. This is a 2-shelf plant stand I made for my wife. We're going to go over in detail of how I built this, so stay tuned. Hello, if you're new to this channel, my name is Dan Shannon. I enjoy woodworking as a hobby and being out in the shop. On this channel, dive deep into my shop as we explore tools and tool reviews, as well as chatting about everything related to woodworking. If this grabs you by the tool belt, please subscribe to my channel if you want more videos like this. Welcome back to Shop Talk with Dan the Man. Today's video, we're going to talk about how to make a potted plant holder. So my wife asked me, we went to a craft show and she said, hey, there's a plant holder. We want one for the sunroom. Can you look at that and build it for our sunroom? I said, sure. So I looked at the stand. It was pretty straightforward, just 2 circles. So the base of your pot, and then 3 legs. So in my opinion, very straightforward, very easy to build. I just got to cut out 2 circles. So I used a red oak as my wood of choice. So as you can see here, I have 2 circles drawn, and all I did was I used the bottom side of this pot. It was quite round, so perfect. So I just did 2 circles. And I'm going to be using my jigsaw to cut out the circles. I have a fine cut blade on here, and you can use your variable speed to slow it down to get your cut the exact speed. So in this particular case, or most cases I should say, you always want to go slightly outside your line. That way when you do sanding later on, you can go in and give it a nice sand right tight to the line. It keeps your shape. So if you go too close, and then when you go to sand, it'll kind of make your circle off. So I would recommend just going on the perimeter and just sticking. It doesn't have to be much, just a little bit outside that pencil mark. And then once you sand, of course, you can bring it tight to that pencil mark. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and cut these 2 circles out, and then we're going to jump into the next stage. I just cut out my 2 circles that I'm going to need. As you can see, I didn't go quite to the line. I just stayed back a little bit. That way, when you put the sander on, you give it a nice sand. You can bring it tight to the line and keep that circle that you want. I purposely picked this piece because I love the knot in it, and I want that to be my top piece. I like the character and the kind of the flaws, or in some cases not the flaws, just the way that the wood is developed. I really like to expose that in my projects. And then the other one, of course, same idea. This one I got a little wonky edge from the side, but that's no big deal once I sand that down. So yeah, just kind of an idea of your 2 circles. And now we got to cut our legs, but first I'll take these over to the sander and run them through and get them all nice and round. So here we are at the sander. This is Rigid's belt and spindle sander, so you can swap out the belt with these spindles. And I have a video on that. I did a tool review of this particular product. I really enjoy it. It's great for crafts, different things you need to sand. So I'm going to use the belt attachment for now. And this has a very coarse grit, so to bring it down this hardwood closer to the line, you want a really hard sandpaper. So you would think higher the sandpaper, maybe the more grit, but it's actually lower sandpaper. So this is 80, and then I'll bring it up to a softer grade to polish it off. So let's fire it up and work on our 2 circles. So as you can see right there, there's my pencil mark, and I got really nice and tight. This 80 grit is perfect for shredding off a lot of wood at once. I wouldn't recommend using, of course, a softer grade because you won't get that wood removal. And then once we get it exactly all the way around, nice and smooth like that, then we'll start on the next one. All right, as you can see there, it's coming along just nicely. It's getting a nice rounded look compared to the side that I haven't touched yet. So I'm gonna do that for both, and yeah, we'll keep picking away at that. I would recommend with this unit too, if you have any dust collection system, I do not, but if you did, you can run a hose on the back and of course suck the sawdust as you're sanding, which would be a great asset for this particular tool. And also it's good to note that the belt, I'll show you there, so this belt, you can actually take it off and flip it over. So see how the bottom part is being used a lot in this project? Well, the top is still pretty decent shape, so you can just flip it over and repurpose the belt instead of throwing it out once the bottom half gets you know, kind of neglected over the time for usage. All right, let's do some more sanding. So since I got the outside edges, the rough part done, I'm now going to swap out my belt to a softer sandpaper. That way I can do the outside edge over again and it will smooth it nice and smooth for my project. So yeah, swap out the belt. Okay, so I swapped out the belt. As you can see, it's a lot softer of a belt, which will mean it'll be less aggressive on my boards, which will make them nice and smooth. So let's fire it up and show you what that looks like. So as you can see right there, it's smoothing that out very nicely. So I'm going to keep going, and you can see my circle that's with the pencil very faint, and that's what you want. So you kept with your line the whole time, and it gives you a nice circle. So I'm going to keep going, do both of them, and we'll go to the next stage. So the next thing I'm going to tackle with my two circles is I want to take the router, and there's a bit on there, a rounding bit. I want to do my edges, so that way on the stand it kind of has a nice soft edge to it instead of a sharp one. So I'm just going to take the router now and do the edges. Also, it's good to note you should have a grippy surface to set this on, so it's not like sliding all around when you're using a router. Just something to note. All right, so you can see there, I got a nice edge on the perimeter. That looks really nice. I'll give that a quick sand. kind of sand it up, but that looks really nice there. I'm happy with that. So I'll go ahead and do the other one. All right, so that turned out nice as well. So now I'm going to take my orbital sander with a 320 grit on the bottom, and I'm able to shine up the top surface. So normally you do an 80 and then gradually bring yourself up, but I just put these through the planer not long ago, so they're pretty smooth. So I just need the 320 on here. Alrighty, as you can see there, that looks beautiful. Starting to come to the finished product that I'm looking for my circle. So nice edge with the router and smooth top. All right, let's go on to the next one. Okay, so now I got to use my sliding miter saw to cut the length for the legs of this plant stand. So I measured it out. I'm going to do 30 inches for my legs. So I'm going to square up the end, and then I'm going to get my overall length that I need to cut. So let's give that a cut now. So I have the end trued up. So I'm going to take my tape measure, get my 30, so I took my tape measure, I got my 30 marked, 32 actually. Now you can take a square and draw a full line. This has a laser on it for the lighting, so I'm just going to use that as a line. So it's up to you if you want to do a full line or just a small line, depending on your saw setup and how accurate you need things to be. All right, so let's go cut that now. I always use the clamp on the end as well, you know, so the saw, if you have a longer board, if you have a shorter board, it's not as bad, but a longer board, you might have a little bit of tipping on the end, so it's good to use this clamp that they have on the saw, which is really nice. And it keeps the board from moving around on you a little safer. So let's give that a cut now. All right, so let's cut the length that we needed, and now we're going to rip it into 3 pieces for our legs. Okay, so I measured the width that I want each leg to be, and it's going to be 1 3/4. So you just take your fence, you move it over to the 1 3/4, and then you want to take your tape and just double check by putting your tape up against the fence and to the carbide tip on the inside of the tooth, so that way you know it's exactly the way you want it for width. So we're going to fire this up and run through. have your legs cut to length, you're going to want to sand them. So that means your edges, your two sides, and your ends should be fine. You can give them a quick little sand, but you don't want to sand them too much or else they'll change the angle of your straight cut from your saw. So just be mindful of that when you sand the ends. Just give them a quick sand. So yeah, let's go ahead and give these a sand, and then after that we're going to use the router to do my edges. All right. So I'd recommend the first time you try out your router bit to use a scrap piece of board like this one here. Just because if you screw up on it or if you don't like the way it looks, you can always try another scrap piece. But once you commit to your board that you're using for your project, that's it. Once and done. So I always say, do a scrap piece, look at it, see how it looks, and then go on to your finished piece that you're going to use for your project. All right, just kind of a little tip there. Okay, so I did my scrap piece, and as you can see there's a really nice edge. And that's kind of the look I'm going for. Just kind of a squared off removal. As you can see on the one side that wasn't touched, and then of course the side that was done. So that's the look I'm going for, and that's the exact depth I want on my bit. So now we can go ahead and do the finished piece that I want to use for my project. Okay, so I got my first piece all set up here, and I'm going to use my router, and I'm just going to trace the perimeter. You'll notice here I have a pad underneath my wood. That's to give it a little grip so it's not sliding around as I'm using the router, and it also protects the surface because I just sanded it so it's not on the workbench getting scratched up further because I spent some time to sand it. So let's go ahead and use the router and do all three pieces. Okay, so there's the first piece done. I think it looks really nice. Nice corners, all edged off, and of course I'll give that a quick sand. So I'm going to go ahead and do the back side now, just to give it that rounded off feeling. I've used masking tape to mark where my holes will go when I countersink. Here I am using a countersink bit in the drill press to drill these holes so I can plug them later with plugs I'll cut out. It's important when using a drill press to back your bit out every so often to remove these shavings. Just a tip. Here is where I pre-drill my 3 holes in my shelf, and since this is hardwood, this is very important because you will crack the wood. So this is the assembly part of the shelf. This is where I attach the 2 shelves to the legs. I just put some glue in the hole just to make sure once the screw is completely taut that the project will stay together long term. Here's the project fully assembled. Now on to the second part where I have to cut the plugs. So here I have the plug cutter in the drill press. You'll notice there's lots of smoke. That happens to me every time I cut hardwood. If you have any way around this, please leave a comment. So here I am installing the plugs. I'm going to apply glue on the head of the screw in the hole, and then I'm going to put the plug in and tap it in. Usually use a rubber mallet, but I didn't have one. So because the plugs are high, instead of sanding them down with a lot of force, I'm going to use this oscillating tool just to remove the top part and then finish it off with the sander that I have here. So I'll start off with a 80 grit or a little bit harder grit, and then I'll use the 320. So here's the plant stand before I put the clear coat on. This is with the clear coat on. Thanks for watching today's video, and as always, just get out in your shop, build some projects. It doesn't have to be a plant stand, it can really be anything. But just get out and fire up the tools and have fun in your shop. So if you like this video today, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to click that subscribe button down there. And yeah, have yourself a great day. And don't forget to watch this video here.